Was
Hello guys, it's Misha Books and Caps, and for today's video we're gonna take a little bit of a left turn here. For today's video I'm going to talk about my top favorite albums of 2017. As much as I love reading and writing, I also enjoy listening to music, and I feel like 2017 has been a really good year in my opinion for music. I've been wanting to make this video since September, and originally this was going to be my top 3 favorite albums that came out this year, but then in October an artist came out with a really good album, so this is going to be my top 4 favorite albums that came out in 2017. It was only right that I add a bonus favorite album of the year, making it top 4 instead of top 3, because I enjoyed this album so much. I still listen to it and I thought it was a really good album, and I really just think that the album and the artist deserves the respect of having it on my top. It's such a really good album. Before I jump into my top 4 favorite albums of the year, I do have 2 honorable mentions, and I just want to say that all of the albums but one are Grammy nominated. So yes, I have good taste in music. No, I'm just playing. But yeah, I was surprised when I looked back and realized that all of these albums have Grammy nominations besides one. And the only reason why that one isn't Grammy nominated is because it came out after the deadline and sometime in October. So that's crazy that I did that so well with picking out my favorite ones. So let's jump right into the video. This is gonna probably be a long one. So the first honorable mention that I have here is SZA's Control. This is a really good album, something I would recommend most, if not all, 20-something year olds to listen to. I feel like she nails it right on the head with this album. There was a period where I wasn't interested in SZA. Like, I only knew of her feature that she did with Rihanna in Consideration, but other than that I wasn't interested in listening to her. And then I heard her on the radio with Love Galore, and I really grew attached with that song, and it was one of my most played songs this year. And then I decided just to give her album a listen. I went ahead and just bought it, and I loved it so much. I do like the whole idea as to why she called the album Control and what control means. I agree with that whole thought. I don't want to give it away to what it means. I just recommend that you guys go out and listen to it and hear for yourself. And I love a majority of the tracks on here and their sound, but probably the song that I listen to the most on here is Supermodel. This is also an album that is up for 5 Grammy nominations, and they are Best R&B Song, Best New Artist, Best Rap Sung Collaboration, Best Urban Contemporary Album, and Best R&B Performance. And the next honorable mention that I'm going to talk about is Tyler the Creator's Flower Boy. I am a huge fan of Tyler's since Goblin. I was a huge fan of Odd Future. Some of my favorite artists from Odd Future are Tyler, Earl Sweatshirt, and Frank Ocean. Also Sid, she's originally from Odd Future. She's had a good year this year. She came out with 2 projects, I believe. And also this year I discovered the internet. She sounds just so good. My favorite internet song right now is Get Away, so check that out. But this was a project that was much needed from Tyler, because I didn't like his last project, that Cherry Bomb thing he came out with. This is a completely different sound. He has switched back over to doing R&B sounds. That's the thing about this. The production in this album is probably one of his best in all of his albums. It's just so heavily rich with R&B tunes, and it's just so good. And I'm so glad that Tyler made this and went back to the sound. And one of my favorite tracks off of this, that's also probably one of the most popular ones that he did with Frank Ocean, was 911. Please give that track a listen to. 911 Lonely Boy, I believe that's what it's called. It is so good. The production is what really makes that song. This album is also Grammy nominated for Best Rap Album. And now we're gonna get into my top 4 favorite albums. Like I said, it was originally 3, but I added in a little bonus one because I loved it so much, and I still listen to it whenever I get a chance to, all the time. For each of the 4 albums I'm going to mention, I will talk about my top 5 favorite tracks from that album, and so that was a little bit of a challenge. Let's get right into my 4th favorite album this year. This artist, he has had such a great year this year. I'm convinced that he lives in the studio from what he's done so far this year. He also received 40 plaques this year, and this album has been for 6 weeks on the top R&B charts at the #1 spot. And so coming in my number 4, Chris Brown's Heartbreak on a Full Moon. Now this project is completely insane. He has come out with 45 tracks. Yes, 45. He did not give us 2 albums. He didn't give us 3 albums. But he gave us 1 album with 45 tracks. And then on top of that, I'm over here thinking this is like gonna be like the deluxe edition then. But no, last week he came out with 12 bonus deluxe songs. Like, that's insane. That's crazy. Making it a total of 57 tracks. Out of these 45 tracks, I gotta say I'm in love and will listen to at least 42 of them. There are probably 3 tracks on here only that I would skip, like not interested in listening to, which is absolutely insane. But then you gotta realize this is Chris Brown we're talking about here. He's a very talented artist, entertainer, performer, probably one of the best dancers out. He's just all around a hit maker. Like, nothing of his flops, and this is a prime example right here. Honestly, I don't even know where he can go from here. It just feels weird to go back to making 15-20 track albums, so I don't know what he's gonna do after this one. Before he came out with this 2 years ago, I believe he came out with a mixtape called Before the Party, and that had 30 tracks on it, and I loved every track on that mixtape. Probably my favorite mixtape by him. So I just love Chris Brown, and I respect him when it comes to his artistry and him as entertainer. This album incorporates a lot of different sounds. Like, most of the tracks don't all sound the same. You have some rap on here, you have some R&B, you have some popish sounds. There's also some EDM on here, and I believe he said in an interview that that was what he was going for. He didn't want every track to sound the same, and it's just 45 tracks of goodness. It is so good. I do recommend listening to this album. I'm sure you'll find at least a track on here that you'll love. This was the only album on my list that was not Grammy nominated because it came out in late October. So I would be surprised if it doesn't get any Grammy nominations for next year. And so, as you guys know, like I said, I wanted to do a top 5 for all my favorite albums. So it was really hard coming up with a top 5 out of 45 tracks. But I did manage to come up with my 5 favorite ones. And I'm going to go from my favorite to my most favorite. So the #1 spot is my top favorite on the album. Coming at number 5 is the track Sip. I just think that between, I just think that between, I just think that between, why? I just think between the production and the way Chris Brown sings, the track is just really sexy. For number 4, I chose Summer Breeze. That is such a laid-back, kick-back song. The production is just so good. I feel like the song is not too short, it's not too long. I kind of feel like it's a perfect length for the song. And like I said, it's very chill. Now, coming at number 3 is a tie. These songs are kind of like the same to me. They're like interchangeable. I like them both. And I couldn't figure out which one to put at number 3, so I just went ahead and picked both. And they are No Exit and Nowhere. And of course, No Exit is now playing in my head. But these are just both good songs. The lyrics are really good. The meanings of the songs are really good, especially No Exit. They're both such great songs. And then coming in at number 2 is Paradise. I just think that this song has probably some of the best lyrics on this album, maybe even in Chris Brown's career. In my opinion, I just think the lyrics are just really genuine. They show a vulnerable side to Chris, and this is the Chris that we probably want to see more of. And now coming in at number 1, this is my ultimate favorite song on the album. When I first listened to this song, I knew it was going to be my favorite. Even after listening to the album on repeat, no other track is taking that spot. And the thing about this track is that there are other songs on the album that have a better production and better lyrics, but I just love this song so much. I mean, it's gonna be my number 1. It's gonna stay that way. And that is the self-titled track, Heartbreak on a Full Moon. So yes, Heartbreak on a Full Moon is my favorite track on the album. I don't know what it is about that song that I love so much, but when it first starts, I love that sound. I cannot talk highly enough about this album. It is just so good. I will keep repeatedly listening to this. And if anybody else has any opinions in how they feel about this album, and let's discuss. It is so good. Please pick up and listen to Heartbreak on a Full Moon. So now here we are at number 3 on my favorite list of 2017. This artist, this is her second album, and she hasn't came out an album in 4 years, and she got Grammy nominated for this album for Best Album of the Year. I did not expect her to get that nomination, but she deserves it. This is a really good album here, and this was a long-awaited album by fans, and that is Lord's Melodrama. I am such a huge fan of Lorde, and I don't really know why, because the first time I've listened to her was Royals, and every track she's ever made is much better than Royals. But I don't know, I listened to that track and I decided to give her a listen, and I loved Pure Heroine, and I have that album. And so when I found out this year she was coming out with her second album, when I was just randomly searching on iTunes, I was so surprised. I was like, oh, don't let this be a letdown. Oh, this is what I've been waiting for, and I didn't even know it. But she did not let me down. She did not let her fans down. This is such a good album, and the fact that there's only 10 tracks on these albums that she does, there's 10, right? There's 11 tracks. She only puts out 11 or 10 tracks, but it just makes for a solid album. And the thing about Lorde is that her sound is very consistent, and she is such a good writer, even when she wrote Pure Heroine, because when you listen to Melodrama, you can hear the growth in her lyrics and in her music. With Pure Heroine, she was talking about teen issues relevant to 16-year-olds, and then here you are 4 years later and you get the adult version of Lorde, and she's talking about bigger and more mature topics such as love and heartbreak. And I respect and love the sound of each period in her life. So that those 4 years allowed for much growth in writing material. But I would say lyric wise and production wise that Melodrama is a better album. Yes, but I'm so happy to have and listen to this gem. I love this album so much. It's just so good. And she's had a wonderful year. Like I said, she got Grammy nominated for Best Album of the Year, and she's up against Jay-Z and Kendrick Lamar. And so my top favorite tracks on this album, coming at number 5, is Writer in the Dark. I pretty much liked the lyrics in this, and I can relate to them. Watch what you say or do to me. You never know, it might end up in my writing. For my 4th favorite track, it is Supercut. I was not aware of supercut as a term or word, but by listening to the song, I get the gist of what it means. And my favorite line from that song is, "In my head, I do everything right." Isn't that the truth and so relatable? Coming in at number 3 is Liability. And I chose this song because of the lyrics, how touching and sad that song is, and how I even may have felt like that a time or two. And it's just very heartbreaking, those lyrics. And then at number 2 is Hard Feelings, Love Less. This is such a great sounding track on this album with the production. The one thing that this track did is it gave texture to the track, to the album. Like when I first listened to this song, there's a break in the song Hard Feelings where it just plays the instrumental, and there's a sound that you can hear. It sounds like metal scraping. It's a scraping sound. People that listen to the song, they know what I'm talking about. And I felt that sound. It gave the song so much texture. It was so impressive. And now my favorite track on this album. I don't even know why I like it so much. When I first heard it, I didn't think much of it, but near the end it transitions, and I love that transition. I do also like the sound throughout the track, and that is The Louvre. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But yes, The Louvre. That is my favorite track on this album. And now, coming in at my second favorite album of this year. I've been such a huge fan of this artist, and this has been a big year for him, mainly because of having gone mainstream with one of his songs, which is very popular and is also Grammy nominated. But before he came out with this album, he had 2 other projects, plus around 6 mixtapes. So if this is the only project you know by him, then you got a lot of catching up to do. And that is Logic's Everybody. Now, I'm gonna probably upset a few Logic fans when I say that I actually think that this album was better than The Incredible True Story. Yes, in my opinion, I thought this was a better project. Mainly because this album doesn't overdo like I felt The Incredible True Story did. I felt like with The Incredible True Story, there was just too much going on, and it was too drawn out, and nothing went well. The transitioning between songs and the story in the background didn't mesh and blend too well, and it was a very long album. I feel like in Everybody, the album is just the right length with only 13 tracks. The transitioning in this album is one of the best, and you don't hear too much about the background story. It's not drowning out the album like it did in The Incredible True Story. It blends in just well, and we get it at just the right amount of moments throughout the album. I also feel like this is one of Logic's most relevant albums. It deals with a lot of heavy subjects such as racism, politics, mental illness, and equality, all in just 13 tracks. So production wise, subject wise, this is probably one of his best. I will say, of course, that I will say that Under Pressure is his best album in my opinion. So like I said, one of my favorite things about this album was the transitionings and how good they are. Oh my gosh. There are 3 main transitions that I can think of, like top 3. The third one is from Killing Spree to Take It Back. But that's not my favorite one. My absolutely 2 favorite transitions on this album were from Hallelujah into Everybody. That was, oh my gosh, that was so good. I thought that was really good. I mainly listened to Hallelujah just to listen to that transition. But my absolute favorite transitioning in this album was when it goes into the waiting room to 1-800 to Anxiety. Like, if you thought 1-800 was a good song, listen to Waiting Room, then 1-800. The feels, I'm telling you, it is so good. But I don't really have a top 5 favorite tracks on here. I just either enjoy the whole album as a whole, or I have one favorite track on here. And my favorite track on this album is Anxiety. I keep forgetting that in the ending half of it, he talks. So when I say it's my favorite track, I'm mostly going off of the first minute or 2 where you actually hear a song, not him talking. I love the production, the sound of this track. My only issue with it, as much as it's my favorite, I do wish that bass that comes in, that hard-hitting sound that comes in, I just wish it was a little louder. Logic received 2 Grammy nominations for the track 1-800, Song of the Year, and Best Music Video. And coming in at number 1. Not only is this my favorite album of this year, but I honestly can say that it's my favorite album of all time. I just love this album so much. And I believe this month he put out the reverse version of the album, because this album can be listened to forward and backwards, and that is Kendrick Lamar's Damn. Now, this album got the most Grammy nominations out of all the albums that I've mentioned, and this is such a good album. I wasn't listening to Kendrick Lamar too much in his recent projects that he's come out with, but I decided to go out and buy this album and give it a listen, and it is just so good. I love this Kendrick Lamar, this dark sound. The thing about this album is that it's very dark. It's probably one of his darkest albums he's come out with. And this album touches on a whole bunch of topics, all identifiable within the track title, such as lust, loyalty, God, fear, all in capital letters with periods. The thing about this album is that it scares me to death, too. Okay, let me paint the picture. So I bought this album, and then later on that night I listened to it, and it was around probably like 11 or 12 at night, and I was in my room, and thank goodness the light was on, because I'll tell you in a minute, but I had the lights on, and I was listening to this, and it first starts off with the track Blood, and that track scared me half to death. It is such a eerie track, and I love this album as a whole, and I just have to listen to every track. But every time I think about listening to that track, it's just like, ugh. Because it's so scary. Like, maybe if I was, like, in a different setting, like, if I had just randomly listened to the album just anytime, anywhere else, I probably wouldn't feel so heavily as I do towards it. But the fact that I listened to it at 12 at night in my room by myself with the lights on, thankfully, it left a little mark on me. And I think it's a scary track. Pretty much Kendrick tells the story of meeting a blind woman on the streets, and he tells the story in his eerie way of his, that eerie voice of his. I originally wanted to read the story, but I'm not going to. But do check it out. It's just very creepy. It really is. And so I don't have a top 5 favorite tracks of this album. I just love that whole album as a whole. I can't wait to get around to listening to it backwards to see what it sounds like. But yeah, the way the way the album is, from the first track into the last track, it makes a full circle, like a full turn. So yes, the album could probably be listened to forward as well as backwards. I haven't gotten around to listening to the backward version yet. I'm sure I'll love it just as much as I love it going forward. I have no complaints about this album, lyric-wise, production-wise. I just think it's so good. I love the sound of every track. And he has a couple of hits on here. Like I said, he got the most Grammy nominations, and they are Album of the Year, Best Rap Album, Best Rap Song, Best Rap Performance, Best Music Video, Best Rap Song Collaboration, and Record of the Year. So yeah, this is a big year for Kendrick, and nobody should really be surprised. He is probably the best, if not one of the best rappers we have out right now, and I love this album so much. My favorite album of all time. It is just that good. I love it. And that concludes this video. Thank you for watching. Now you have an idea on my type of taste in music and what I like listening to. And the next video I'll see you in, it'll probably be book related. I feel like listening to Melodrama now.